My son Michael hadn't visited in 6 months, so when his car pulled into my driveway that Tuesday morning, I felt my heart lift. You know how it is when you're 78 and widowed. Every car door slam could be company. Every phone ring might be one of your children finally remembering you exist. I smoothed down my house dress and hurried to the front door, my arthritis complaining with each step. Through the lace curtains, I watched Michael climb out of his BMW. Lord, when did he start looking so much like his father? Same broad shoulders, same purposeful stride. But Harold never carried a briefcase when he came home. "Mom," Michael's voice boomed as he bounded up the porch steps. He wrapped me in a hug that felt different, too tight, too long, like he was trying to convince himself of something. "Well, bless your heart, what brings you by?" I patted his back, breathing in his expensive cologne. When did my little boy start smelling like money instead of sunshine? "Can't a son visit his mother?" He pulled back, and there it was. That salesman's smile he'd perfected over the years, the one that never quite reached his eyes. I've been sharing stories with other mothers and grandmothers who watch these videos, and I know you understand. We see things. We notice when something's off with our children, even when they're 53 years old with children of their own. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps other women find our community here. Come in, come in. I just made coffee." I led him to the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd taught him to tie his shoes, where he'd done 45 years of homework at that oak table. Michael set his briefcase down with a thud. "Actually, Mom, that's perfect. We need to talk." That word made my stomach tighten. In my experience, "we need to talk" never led anywhere good. "Is everything all right? The kids? Is Victoria okay?" I glanced toward the window and noticed her car still running in the driveway. "Everyone's fine," he waved dismissively. "Victoria's she's on a call. You know how she is with her real estate business." I knew exactly how she was. 23 years of knowing how she was. But I poured the coffee anyway, my hands only trembling a little as I set his favorite mug in front of him. The one with "World's Best Son" painted in crooked letters. He'd made it in 2nd grade. "Mom, I'm worried about you." Michael opened his briefcase with sharp clicks. "Living alone in this big house. Dad's been gone 2 years now." 26 months. The words came out sharper than I intended. 26 months, 3 days. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Right, I'm sorry. I know it's been hard." Hard, such a small word for such a big thing. Hard was teaching 6th grade with a migraine. Losing Harold was, well, it was like losing half of myself. The better half, some days. "I'm managing fine, honey." I watched him pull out folders, documents, papers covered in small print. "This house has been good to me." "That's what I want to talk about." He spread the papers across my clean table like he was dealing cards. "The house, Mom. It's a lot of upkeep. The property taxes alone must be killing you on a teacher's pension." I sipped my coffee to buy time. Property taxes. In 53 years, that boy had never once asked about my property taxes. "Your father left me provided for." I know. Michael leaned forward, and for just a moment I saw my little boy again. The one who used to climb into my lap after nightmares. "But wouldn't you be happier somewhere? Smaller, somewhere with people to help you." "Help me with what exactly?" "Well, you know," he gestured vaguely. "Things, shopping, cleaning, medications." "I take 1 blood pressure pill, Michael. I haven't missed a dose in 15 years. "But what about when?" he caught himself. "I mean, as time goes on." The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, tighter, like the walls were listening. I noticed things then. How his fingers drummed against the table. How he kept glancing at his phone. How the papers were already flagged with little sticky notes saying, "Sign here." "What are these papers exactly?" "Just some documents to update. Power of attorney stuff. Banking access so I can help if you need it. Standard things. He pushed them toward me. Nothing to worry about. You know, after all I gave him, after all those years of sacrifice and love, my own son sat at my table with papers I didn't understand, asking me to sign my life away. And the worst part? He thought I was too old, too stupid to notice. I should probably read these first. I pulled the stack toward me. Oh, Mom, they're really complicated. Legal jargon. That's why I'm here, to explain everything. He was already pulling out a pen. One of those heavy silver ones that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Just trust me. Trust, there's another small word that carry. Ease so much weight. I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had those laugh lines become frown lines? When had his eyes gotten so cold? This was the child I'd sung to sleep, who I'd driven to Little League in this very neighborhood, who I'd mortgaged this house to send to college. Michael, honey, these look important. Maybe I should have Mr. Peterson look at them. You remember him. He helped with your father's will. Something flickered across Michael's face. Irritation, fear, it was gone before I could name it. Mom, that's really not necessary. I'm your son. I'm looking out for you. He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. His palm was sweaty. Don't you trust me? The question hung between us like smoke. Outside, a car door slammed. Victoria was coming in. Somehow I knew that was bad, very bad. As Michael spread the papers wider on my kitchen table, explaining in that patient voice people use with children and the elderly, I saw Victoria's shadow pass by the window. She didn't knock. After 23 years, my daughter-in-law still waited to be invited into my home like a vampire at the threshold. Victoria stayed in that car like she was allergic to me, but I remembered when she first came to this very kitchen 23 years ago. Michael had brought her home for Thanksgiving, so proud, so in love. She'd worn a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly paycheck, but she'd helped with dishes. Back then, she still pretended to like me. Mom, Michael's voice seemed far away. Are you listening? I blinked, pulled back to the present. The papers were still there, spreading across my table like spilled milk. I'm sorry, honey, I was just thinking. This is important. He tapped the documents with that expensive pen. I need you to focus. Focus. Like I was one of my 6th graders daydreaming during fractions. I looked around this kitchen, and everywhere I turned, I saw memories. The doorframe where we'd marked Michael's height every birthday until he turned 18. Still there, under 3 coats of paint. The window where I'd watched him wait for the school bus, lunch box clutched in his small hand. The corner where Harold had built that toy box, teaching Michael to use a hammer when he was 7. You know, you took your first steps right there. I pointed to the spot between the stove and refrigerator. 15 months old. Your father was deployed, missed it by 2 days. I must have called him 20 times at the base, crying happy tears. Michael shifted in his chair. Mom, we really need to. And this table. I ran my hand across the worn oak surface. Your father bought it at an estate sale when we first married. $60, which was a fortune to us then. You did your homework here every night. Remember how you'd cry over long division? That was a long time ago. Not to me. The words came out soft. To me, it was yesterday. It was an hour ago. When you're my age, time plays tricks. The years collapse like a telescope, and suddenly your gray-haired son is 8 years old again, gap-toothed and giggling. This house, I continued, knowing I was stalling but unable to stop. Every room tells a story. Your sister took her first piano lesson in the living room. Your brother broke his arm jumping off the porch roof twice. Same spot both times, can you believe it? Michael's jaw tightened. They both have their own homes now, Mom. Nice homes, new homes. New isn't always better. It is when the plumbing works and the roof doesn't leak. My roof doesn't leak. I sat up straighter. Your father re-shingled it himself in 2018, his last big project before the cancer. But I couldn't say that word. Not in this kitchen where he'd eaten 10,000 meals, where he'd kissed me good morning for 52 years. Mom, please. Michael pushed the papers closer. I'm trying to help you. I studied his face. When had helping started looking so much like taking? Remember when you wanted that bicycle? The memory surfaced suddenly, sharp and clear. The red Schwinn in Peterson's hardware window. You were 10. Mom. I took extra shifts tutoring. Your father worked overtime at the plant. We ate beans and cornbread for 2 months to save up. But that Christmas morning when you saw that bike under the tree, I smiled at the memory. You cried, my tough little boy crying over a bicycle. What does this have to do with anything? You promised you'd take care of it forever, wash it every week, never let it rust. I met his eyes. It was in the garage sale 3 summers later. You'd outgrown it, you said, wanted a car instead. Color rose in his cheeks. I was a kid. Yes, you were. Outside, Victoria's car door slammed again. This time, I heard her heels clicking up my walk. The sound reminded me of a countdown. You know what your father said the day you were born? I asked. He held you up to the window in the hospital room. You could do that back. Kay then, and he said, see that world out there, son. Someday you're going to make it better. Michael's hand clenched around his pen. Dad said a lot of things. He meant them all. Did he? Because I remember him saying he'd be here to help with my kids, to teach them fishing like he taught me. But where is he, Mom? The cruelty of it took my breath away. That wasn't his choice. Nothing's anybody's choice, apparently. Michael's voice turned bitter. Not dying, not living, not accepting help when it's offered. Is that what this is? Help? What else would it be? I wanted to say, it looks like theft. It smells like betrayal. It feels like you're erasing me before I'm even gone. But mothers don't say those things to their sons. Not good mothers. Not mothers who spent 30 years biting their tongues to keep peace, who made excuses for missed birthdays and forgotten Mother's Days, who pretended not to notice when the calls stopped coming after the will was read and there wasn't as much money as expected. Your father worked 2 jobs to pay for this house, I said instead. 16-hour days. His hands were so calloused, sometimes they'd bleed, but he never complained. We're building something, he'd say, something permanent. Permanent, Michael laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Nothing's permanent, Mom. Look around. This place is falling apart. I did look around. I saw the patched linoleum where Michael had tried to cook breakfast at age 6 and started a grease fire. The pencil marks on the doorframe. The dent in the wall from when he'd thrown a baseball inside against the rules. Evidence of a life lived, of a family raised. It's not falling apart, I said quietly. It's well loved. Same difference in real estate. Real estate. When had my home become real estate? Victoria knocked on the back door. 3 sharp raps, impatient. That's my cue, Michael said, rising to let her in. But he paused, his hand on the doorknob. Mom, I need you to understand. This isn't about the money. Then what's it about? He didn't answer. Just opened the door for his wife, who swept in smelling like perfume and purpose. Hello, Dorothy, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. She looked at the papers spread on the table and smiled. Oh, good, you're getting started. Getting started. Like this was the beginning of something instead of the end of everything. Michael returned to his seat, suddenly all business again. Now, Mom, the first document is just a simple power of attorney, in case of emergency. The second one updates some deed information. Deed information. My hand stilled on my coffee mug. Just clerical stuff, making sure everything's properly filed. The county has new requirements. He slid a paper toward me, his finger pointing to a signature line. Right here. But I was still thinking about that red bicycle. How proud he'd been. How carefully he'd wheeled it to the garage that first day. How I'd found it years later, forgotten in the corner, one wheel rusted, paint scratched from neglect. Some people take care of things. Some people just take things. As Michael pushed the documents forward again, his wedding ring caught the light. The ring Harold and I had bought him, spending more than we could afford because we wanted him to start his marriage right. We wanted him to have something permanent. But permanence, I was learning, was just another promise waiting to be broken. The pen felt heavy in my hand as Michael pointed to the signature line, his finger tapping impatiently. Victoria had positioned herself behind him, arms crossed, watching me like a hawk watches a mouse. Just sign here, Mom, initial here, and here. Michael's voice had taken on that smooth quality he used for closing deals. We've got 3 more stops today. 3 more stops. I wasn't even important enough to merit a whole afternoon. What kind of updates exactly? I squinted at the small print, but even with my reading glasses, the words swam together like minnows. I told you, county requirements, property tax stuff, nothing major. He was already flipping to the next page. Here too. Victoria checked her phone. Michael, we need to wrap this up. The Patterson showing is at 2. The Patterson showing. My son was rushing me to sign papers I didn't understand so his wife could sell someone else's house. The irony wasn't lost on me. Maybe I should read through these first. Mom, Michael's patience was fraying like old rope. Do you trust me or not? There it was again. That question that wasn't really a question. It was a test. A trap. Say no, and I'm the terrible mother who doesn't trust her own son. Say yes, and I sign whatever he puts in front of me. Of course I trust you, honey. It's just... Then sign, please. I took time off work for this. Victoria rearranged her whole schedule. We're trying to help you. I looked down at the papers. So many lines, so many pages. In teacher terms, this was like asking a student to turn in homework without letting them do the assignment first. But Michael was staring at me with Harold's eyes, and I'd never been able to say no to those eyes. I signed the first document. My hand shook a little, making my signature wobblier than usual. Good, now this one. Another paper appeared. What's this one for? Banking access, so I can help pay your bills if needed. I pay my own bills, have for 60 years. I know, Mom, this is just precautionary. Victoria's voice cut in, sharp as winter. We're not getting any younger, are we? We, as if she and I were in the same boat. She was 45. I had sweaters older than her. I signed that one too, and the next, and the next. Each signature felt like giving away a piece of myself. But Michael kept pushing papers forward and I kept signing, because that's what mothers do. We give and give until there's nothing left. Last one. Michael slid a thicker document across the table. This one had a gold seal, official looking. What's? Same stuff. County filing. Need to make sure the deed's in proper order for tax purposes. Deed. That word made me pause, pen hovering over the paper. The deed to the house. Just updating the filing, Mom. Technical stuff. But he wouldn't meet my eyes when he said it. I thought about Harold then, how careful he'd been with this house. How he'd kept every receipt, every document filed away in his metal box in the basement. A man's home is his castle, he'd say, and you protect your castle. I should probably have Mr. Peterson. Mom, for God's sake. Michael's mask finally slipped. I'm your son. I'm not trying to cheat you. I'm trying to help you stay in this house. But if you'd rather trust some lawyer who barely knows you over your own flesh and blood. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. This was my baby boy. The one I'd nursed through pneumonia, who I'd taught to ride a bike in this very driveway, who I'd cried with when his first girlfriend broke his heart. I'm sorry. The words came automatically. You're right, I'm being silly. Not silly, Victoria said, her voice suddenly sweet. Just careful, that's good. But Michael would never do anything to hurt you. Would you, honey? Of course not. He reached across the table, took my free hand. His palm was still sweaty. I love you, Mom. This is all for you. For me, everything was always for me, apparently. Even the things that felt like they were being taken from me. I signed the last document. The pen made a scratching sound against the paper, like fingernails on wood. Perfect. Michael gathered the papers quickly, shuffling them into his briefcase before I could second-guess myself. All done. See, that wasn't so bad. No, it wasn't bad. It was just empty, like eating cotton candy. All air and colored sugar dissolving the moment it touched your tongue. They left quickly after that. Michael gave me another too-tight hug. Victoria didn't bother. I watched them drive away in their expensive car, leaving me alone in my kitchen with the ghost of signatures hanging in the air. Something felt wrong, more than wrong. It felt like I'd just made a terrible mistake. I washed the coffee cups, dried them carefully, put them back in the cabinet Harold had built. My hands moved automatically through the familiar motions while my mind churned. Trust, Michael had asked if I trusted him, but trust was supposed to go both ways, wasn't it? If he trusted me, why didn't he want me to read the papers? Why the rush? Why the guilt? I found myself in Harold's office. I still called it that, even though it had been 2 years since he'd sat at his desk. His filing cabinet stood in the corner, solid and dependable as the man himself had been. What would you do, honey? I asked the empty room. Would you have signed? But I already knew the answer. Harold would have read every word. Twice. He would have asked questions, demanded answers, maybe even had his lawyer review everything. He wouldn't have been bullied by guilt or rushed by impatience. But Harold was gone, and I was just a lonely old woman who couldn't say no to her son. I opened the filing cabinet, thinking maybe I should file the carbon copies Michael had left. Carbon copies. My blood went cold. Michael hadn't left any carbon copies, no receipts, no duplicates, nothing to show what I just signed. With shaking fingers, I searched through the papers on Harold's desk. Sometimes Michael left things behind, always in such a hurry. And there, caught under the desk blotter, was a piece of paper. A corner torn from one of the documents, probably ripped when he'd shoved them into his briefcase. The words on that scrap made my knees weak. A transfer of deed to the property located at 425 Maple Street, Des Moines, Iowa, from Dorothy Me Henderson to Michael James Henderson and Victoria Louise Henderson. Transfer, not update, not filing, transfer. My son hadn't come to help me keep my house. He'd come to take it. Why hands shook as I reached for the phone. I needed to call Michael, needed to understand what I'd just done. The numbers blurred through sudden tears, and I had to dial twice before I got it right. Michael's laugh through the phone was different, harder somehow, as he said, "Mom, you're getting confused again. There was no deed transfer." But I found a piece of paper. What paper? Mom, I left all the documents with my lawyer. You're imagining things. I stared at the torn corner in my hand. The words were right there, black ink on white paper. Transfer of deed. But Michael's voice was so certain, so patronizing, that for a moment I wondered if I was seeing things. It says transfer, Michael. From me to you and Victoria. Mom, listen to yourself. His sigh was heavy, theatrical. Why would I need to transfer a deed? That doesn't even make sense. You're getting worked up over nothing. Then what did I sign? I told you, updates for the county, power of attorney for emergencies, basic stuff. A pause. Have you been taking your medications? My blood pressure pill, of course. No, Mom. All your medications. You know, the ones Dr. Morrison prescribed. I frowned. Dr. Morrison only prescribed the blood pressure medication. See, this is what I'm talking about. His voice took on that concerned tone I'd heard him use with clients he thought were being difficult. You're forgetting things, important things. Victoria and I have been worried about you. Worried? You haven't visited in 6 months. Because every time we try to help, you get paranoid. Like now, accusing me of stealing from you. Really, Mom? The word stealing hit me like cold water. Is that what I was doing? Accusing my own son of theft. The boy I'd raised to be honest, who'd been an altar server at St. Mary's, who'd won the citizenship award in high school. I'm not accusing. I just want to understand. What's to understand? I'm trying to protect you, and you're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. His voice cracked slightly. Do you know how much that hurts? Now I felt tears starting. I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean. Victoria's right. You're getting worse. First it was forgetting where you put things, then mixing up dates. Now you're having delusions about legal documents. I'm not having delusions. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I been forgetting things? Sometimes I'd walk into a room and forget why. Sometimes I'd call one of my children by their sibling's name. But that was normal at my age, wasn't it? Mom, remember last month when you insisted someone had stolen your good china? And it was in the basement the whole time. I did remember. I'd been so certain it was gone, had even called the police. The young officer had been very kind when we found the boxes exactly where Harold had stored them years ago, but I could have sworn I'd looked there. That was different. Was it? And what about when you accused the bank of stealing money from your account, but you'd just forgotten about the automatic payments? My face burned with embarrassment. That had happened too. The bank manager had printed out all my transactions, showing me each automatic withdrawal. I'd apologized profusely, but I'd been so sure. Mom, I think we need to talk about getting you some help. Help, the word came out as a whisper. Someone to check on you. Make sure you're taking your medications correctly. Help with the house. I don't need help with the house. Mom, be realistic. When's the last time you cleaned the gutters? Checked the furnace filters? You can't keep up with a place this size. He was right about the gutters. Harold had always done those, and I hadn't changed the furnace filters since. I couldn't remember. Maybe you're right. The words tasted like defeat. Maybe I am getting confused. It's not your fault. His voice turned gentle now, understanding. It happens, but that's why I need to be able to help you. That's all those papers were about, making sure you're protected. Protected from what? From whom? From myself. I should let you go, I said, suddenly exhausted. You must be busy. Never too busy for you, Mom, but maybe don't mention this to anyone else. The confusion about the papers. I wouldn't want people to get the wrong idea about your condition. My condition, like I was diseased, like aging was something contagious. I won't say anything. Good, and Mom, maybe make a doctor's appointment just to be safe, ask about memory tests. After he hung up, I sat in Harold's office for a long time, staring at that torn piece of paper. The words hadn't changed. Transfer of deed. But now they seemed less certain, like maybe I was reading them wrong. I thought about all the little things that had been happening lately. Lost items that turned up in strange places. Appointments I couldn't remember making. Phone calls I was sure I'd received but had no record of. Was I losing my mind? My mother H. Ad lived to 92, sharp as a tack until the end. But Harold's mother, she'd started forgetting things at 75. By 80, she didn't recognize her own children. Was that happening to me? Was Michael seeing something I couldn't see myself? I went to the bathroom and stared at my reflection. Same gray hair, same brown eyes, same worry lines that had been deepening since Harold died. I looked like myself, but maybe that's not how it worked. Maybe you couldn't see your own decline. "You're Dorothy Me Henderson," I told my reflection. "You taught 6th grade for 35 years. You raised 3 children. You know your own mind." But did I? I found myself checking things after that, testing myself. What day was it? Tuesday. What year? 2024. Who was the president? I knew that too. My memory seemed fine. But then I found my reading glasses in the refrigerator. I had no memory of putting them there. And my car keys were in the medicine cabinet. And the television remote was in my purse. Each misplaced item felt like evidence against me. Proof that Michael was right, that I was losing control, that I needed help. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Harold for 50 years, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I could trust my own thoughts. Every creak of the old house sounded sinister. Every shadow seemed to move. At 3 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. I made tea, chamomile, which Harold always said would calm my nerves, but my hands shook as I poured the water. Something wasn't right. Beyond my supposedly failing memory, beyond the misplaced items, beyond Michael's sudden concern after months of absence. Something was happening to me, around me, and I couldn't quite grasp what it was. I thought about calling my daughter Sarah in California, or my youngest Tom in Florida. But what would I say? That Michael was trying to help me and I was being paranoid. That I was finding things in strange places. They'd side with Michael. They always did. He was the successful one, the one who'd stayed close to home, the one who had his life together. No, I couldn't call them. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something. Protect myself somehow. Even if I was losing my mind, even if Michael was right about everything, something deep in my gut, the same instinct that had helped me manage classrooms full of preteens for 35 years, was screaming that danger was coming. I finished my tea and made a decision. Tomorrow, I would go to the bank. I would check my accounts, make sure everything was as it should be, and maybe, just maybe, I'd stop by Peterson's Hardware. Not to see a lawyer, that would be betraying Michael's trust. But old Mr. Peterson had known Harold since they were boys. He'd understand an old woman's need to talk to a friend. The sun was just starting to rise as I finally headed back to bed, exhausted but determined. Whatever was happening, whether it was my mind betraying me or something else entirely, I wasn't going down without a fight. The young man at Best Buy looked at me strangely when I asked about hidden cameras, but I had taught his mother in 3rd grade. Amazing how teaching in the same town for 35 years meant you'd educated half the population. "Mrs. Henderson," his name tag said Kyle, and suddenly I could see the little boy who'd skinned his knee on the playground. "What do you need a camera for?" "Home security," I said, trying to sound casual. "You know, living alone and all." He relaxed visibly. "Oh, sure, we've got some great doorbell cameras." "No, something more. Discreet for inside." His eyebrows went up again, but he led me to an aisle filled with tiny devices that looked like they belonged in spy movies. When had the world become so suspicious that grandmothers needed secret cameras? "This one's popular." He held up something that looked like a phone charger. "But for someone like you, I'd recommend this." He showed me a small device designed to fit inside a lamp. "Just replace your regular bulb with this. It connects to your phone, records when it detects motion. Easy to set up." Someone like me, elderly, probably confused by technology, but I'd learned to use smart boards in my classroom before retiring. I could handle a camera. "I'll take it." Kyle helped me set up the app on my phone, patient as I fumbled with passwords. His mother had been the same way, patient, kind. I'd given her an A in language arts. "You sure you're okay, Mrs. H?" he asked as he rang up my purchase. "Is someone bothering you?" For a moment, I wanted to tell him everything. But what would I say? My son might be trying to steal my house, but also I might be losing my mind. Just being cautious, I said instead. You can't be too careful these days. Back home, I stood on a kitchen chair to install the camera in the living room lamp. My knees protested, reminding me that 78-year-old women shouldn't be climbing furniture. But Harold wasn't here to do it for me, and I couldn't ask Michael. The irony wasn't lost on me. Using technology, my son thought I couldn't understand to catch him in whatever he was doing, if he was doing anything. Part of me hoped the camera would prove him right, that I was just a paranoid old woman seeing threats where there were none. But the other part, the teacher part that had learned to spot cheating from across a classroom, knew better. I tested the camera, waving at it from different angles. The app on my phone showed everything clearly. Too clearly. I could see every wrinkle, every age spot, every sign that I was no longer the young mother who'd raised her children in this house. For the next 3 days, I played a role. When Michael called, I sounded confused, asked him to repeat things, mentioned forgetting where I'd put my purse. It hurt to hear the satisfaction in his voice, the gentle condescension as he reminded me about doctor's appointments I should make. Actually, I said during one call, my voice deliberately shaky, I've been thinking about what you said, about needing help. Maybe you could come by, we could talk about it. Really? He sounded surprised. That's great, Mom. How about Thursday? Victoria and I can come after lunch. That would be nice. I'll make cookies. You don't have to. Chocolate chip, your favorite. There was a pause. Yeah, my favorite. See you Thursday, Mom. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not the gentle tears of an old woman, but the ugly, choking sobs of a mother whose heart was breaking. How had we gotten here? When had my baby boy become someone I needed to trap with cameras and cookies? Thursday came too quickly. I spent the morning baking, the familiar routine calming my nerves. The house smelled like butter and chocolate, like every birthday and homecoming from Michael's childhood. But now it felt like a farewell. I checked the camera app obsessively. Battery full. Storage space clear. Everything recording properly. I'd even practiced looking confused and vulnerable in the mirror, though it made me sick to see myself that way. At 1:30, I heard their car in the driveway. Both of them this time. That seemed significant, though I wasn't sure why. I forced myself to move slowly to the door, to fumble with the locks like my fingers weren't working properly. Michael, oh, and Victoria too, how nice. I made my voice thin, uncertain. Come in, did we have plans today? Michael and Victoria exchanged a look. The kind of look parents give each other over a difficult child's head. We talked about it Monday, Mom, about getting you help. Oh yes, I remember now. I didn't have to fake the tremor in my voice. Lying to my son, even for good reason, went against every maternal instinct. I made cookies. At least I think I did. You did, Mom. I can smell them. Michael's voice was gentle, but his eyes were scanning the room like he was cataloging assets. Why don't we sit in the living room? Perfect, right in front of the camera. I settled into Harold's recliner while they took the couch. The lamp with its hidden camera stood between us, innocent looking. I'd polished its brass base that morning until it gleamed. So, Victoria began, pulling out a tablet. We've been looking at some options for you. Options. Places where you'd be safer, where there are people to help you. She turned the screen toward me. Pictures of smiling seniors playing cards, eating in cheerful dining rooms. This one is particularly nice. Morningside Gardens. They have different levels of care, so as your needs change. My needs, I let my voice quaver. But I don't. I like my house. We know, Mom. Michael leaned forward, all concern. But be honest. When's the last time you went upstairs? You're sleeping on the couch most nights, aren't you? I was, actually. The stairs had become harder since Harold died. Not physically, I could still climb them fine. but our bedroom felt too empty, too full of ghosts. Sometimes, I admitted. And the house is so big, so much maintenance. Wouldn't it be nice to not worry about any of that? But where would I go? Victoria's smile was sharp as winter ice. Well, that's what we need to discuss. The house would need to be sold, of course, to pay for your care. There it was, the trap springing shut, but I was ready. Sold, but it's my home. Mom, you already signed the papers, remember? Transferring the deed to us. That way we can handle everything for you. Michael's voice was so reasonable, so calm. You don't need to worry about any of it. I did. I made my eyes go wide, confused. When? Monday. You signed several documents. Don't you remember? I shook my head slowly, let my lower lip tremble. I don't. Oh dear, I really am losing it, aren't I? It's not your fault. Victoria reached over and patted my hand. Her touch was cold. That's why we're her. To take care of everything. Everything, I repeated. Yes, that's good. Michael relaxed visibly. I'm glad you understand. Now about Morningside Gardens. When would I have to move? Well, there's a waiting list, but we could probably get you in within a month or two. Just enough time to clean out the house, have an estate sale. An estate sale, like I was already dead. What about my things, Harold's things? You can take some personal items, of course. Photos, small mementos. The facility has furnished rooms. Victoria was already making notes on her tablet. We'll handle disposing of the rest. Disposing. 53 years of marriage, of family life disposed of. That's very efficient, I managed. We've given this a lot of thought, Mom. Michael reached for a cookie, bit into it. For just a moment, he looked like my little boy again, chocolate smearing his chin. We want what's best for you. I know you do, sweetheart. The lie tasted worse than bile. You always have. They stayed another hour, outlining their plans for my life, or what was left of it. How they'd handle the sale, we know reliable realtors. How they'd manage my finances. It's easier if we consolidate everything. How they'd visit me at Morningside, every Sunday if we can. I nodded and smiled and played the part of the grateful, confused old woman perfectly. All while the camera in the lamp recorded every cold calculation, every casual cruelty, every moment of my son planning to steal my life. When they finally left, I stayed in Harold's chair for a long time. The house felt different now, violated, like strangers had walked through and marked everything for removal. But I wasn't beaten yet. I had evidence now. I had proof. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. There they were, my son and his wife, caught in digital amber as they planned my erasure. The video was crystal clear, the audio perfect. I could hear every word, see every dismissive gesture, watch Victoria's predatory smile as she calculated the value of my home. It's okay, Harold, I whispered to the empty room. I've got them, now what do I do? The answer would come. It had to, because I wasn't going to Morningside Gardens. I wasn't leaving my home, and I certainly wasn't going down without a fight. As if in response to my thoughts, I heard car doors outside. They were back. Already? I looked out the window and my blood ran cold. Michael and Victoria had returned, and this time they weren't alone. Victoria's voice was like ice as she sat in Harold's chair, saying, "She won't last much longer in this big house anyway. Did you see how she couldn't even remember signing the papers?" They'd come back. 15 minutes after leaving, they'd returned, probably thinking I was napping or too addled to notice. But I was watching through my phone, hidden in the kitchen, as my camera captured everything. "The act is working perfectly," Michael said, loosening his tie. "She actually believes she's losing her mind." Act, the word hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the counter to keep from falling. "Those misplaced items were genius," Victoria continued. Glasses in the fridge, keys in the medicine cabinet. She's so rattled she can't trust herself anymore. They'd been in my house, moving my things, gaslighting me. The word came from an old movie herald I had watched about a husband trying to drive his wife insane. I'd thought it was just fiction. How long before we can move on the sale? Victoria pulled out her tablet again, all business. The deed transfer is already filed. Thank God she didn't read it. Michael laughed, but it wasn't the laugh I remembered from his childhood. This was cold, calculating. Once we get power of attorney, we can do whatever we want. Sell the house, liquidate her accounts, stick her in whatever facility takes Medicaid. Morningside Gardens doesn't take Medicaid, Victoria noted. I know. That was just to keep her calm. I'm thinking more like Sunset Manor on the south side. I knew Sunset Manor. Everyone in town knew it. It was where you went to die, forgotten and alone. The local news had done an exposé on violations there. Bed sores, medication errors, patients left in soiled clothes for hours. What about your siblings? Victoria asked. What about them? Sarah's in California playing artist. Tom's in Florida with his third wife. They barely call. As long as Mom's taken care of, they won't ask questions. And the money from the house. Three-way split, technically. But as her power of attorney, I'll control everything. Set up some bills, some expenses. By the time we're done, their share will be minimal. My legs gave out. I slid down the cabinet to sit on my kitchen floor, phone clutched in shaking hands. On the screen, my son, my baby boy, was planning my destruction like a business merger. The beauty is, he continued, she's doing half the work for us. Actually believing she's going senile. Did you see her face when I mentioned the missing china? She really thought she'd forgotten. You moved her china to the basement 6 months ago, Victoria said, admiration in her voice. You've been planning this that long. Since Dad died. He was the only thing standing in the way. Too sharp, too protective. But Mom alone, easy target. Easy target. Is that what I'd become? A lifetime of love and sacrifice reduced to an easy target. What if she fights back, goes to a lawyer? With what proof? A confused old lady who can't remember where she puts things, who signs documents without reading them, who's already admitted to her son that she needs help. Michael's voice was smug. Besides, I've been documenting everything. Every confused phone call, every paranoid accusation. If she tries anything, I'll have her declared incompetent. Brilliant. Victoria leaned over and kissed him, in Harold's chair, where Harold used to read his newspapers and do crossword puzzles and tell me about his day. The timeline is tight, Michael said, checking his phone. I want her out within 6 weeks. The market's hot right now. This place will sell fast. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, corner lot, original hardwood floors. Victoria was already in realtor mode. We could get $400,000 easy, maybe more if we stage it right. That's the retirement fund right there. Plus her savings, the life insurance she doesn't know I know about, Dad's pension. He was adding it up like grocery receipts. Your mother was a teacher, right? Don't they have good retirement accounts? Very good. She's been living off Dad's pension and Social Security, barely touching her 403B. There's at least $300,000 there. They were discussing my life savings like pirates dividing treasure. Every penny Harold and I had scraped together, every sacrifice we'd made, every dream we'd deferred for later, all of it just numbers on their balance sheet. We should move faster on the power of attorney, Victoria suggested. What if she has a moment of clarity? Already handled. Dr. Morrison is an old golf buddy. He'll write up concerns about her cognitive decline. A few more incidents, maybe a fall down the stairs, and no judge will question it. A fall down the stairs. My blood turned to ice. Were they planning to hurt me, push me, make it look like an accident? Nothing too serious, Victoria warned, as if reading my thoughts through the camera. "We need her alive to sign the papers. Just enough to show she can't live alone. A broken hip, maybe. Old ladies break hips all the time." They continued planning my future, or lack thereof, for another 20 minutes. Every detail mapped out. How they'd clean out the house. Estate sale company takes 40%, but it's worth it for speed. Where they'd store what they wanted to keep. That dining set is actual mahogany. How they'd handle my mail, change of address to our place, filter everything. They even discussed my funeral. "Cremation's cheaper," Victoria noted. "No need for a plot since Harold already has one." "She always said she wanted to be buried next to Dad," Michael said. "Well, she won't be in a position to complain, will she?" They both laughed at the thought of denying me eternity next to my husband. Finally, they prepared to leave again. "Remember," Michael said, standing up, "keep playing the concerned son. Visit more often, bring flowers, look worried. The neighbors need to see me trying to help." "You're a good actor," Victoria said. "You almost had me believing you cared during the cookie conversation." "Those cookies, though, she still makes them exactly like when I was a kid." For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Regret, memory, but it was gone before I could name it. "Shame she won't be making them much longer." They left through the front door, and I heard Michael call out loudly, "Bye, Mom. See you soon. Love you." Performance, all of it. I stayed on my kitchen floor for a long time, phone dark in my lap. The house felt different now. Not violated, destroyed. Every happy memory, every moment of love, all of it poisoned by what I just witnessed. My son wanted to steal everything and throw me away like garbage. But worse than that, so much worse, was how calculated it all was. This wasn't a desperate decision or a moment of greed. This was months of planning, of manipulation, of slowly driving me to doubt my own mind. The cruelest part? It was working. Even knowing the truth, I still found myself wondering, was I really okay? Had I actually misplaced those items myself? Was I just a paranoid old woman seeing conspiracies where there was only concern? No, I had proof now. Video evidence of their confession, their plans, their cold-blooded cruelty. I pulled myself up, joints protesting, and walked to the living room. Harold's chair sat there, contaminated now by Victoria's presence. But I sat in it anyway, opened my phone, and watched the video again. And again. And again. Each viewing hurt less and strengthened me more. The initial shock gave way to anger. The anger crystallized into determination. They thought I was an easy target, a confused old woman with no fight left. They were wrong. I might be 78. I might be alone. I might be heartbroken beyond words that my own child could do this to me. But I'd spent 35 years managing classrooms full of children who thought they were smarter than their teacher. I'd raised 3 kids through teenage years and rebellion. I'd buried my husband and survived. I was Dorothy Me Henderson, and I was nobody's easy target. The video ended, and I started it again. This time, I wasn't watching as a heartbroken mother. This time, I was watching as a woman planning her defense. My teacher's instincts kicked in as I organized everything into folders, just like I used to do with lesson plans. Red folder for the video evidence, blue for financial documents, green for anything suspicious I could find. Harold's office became my command center, and for the first time since he died, I felt like I had a purpose. First, I made copies of the video, uploaded it to the cloud. Kyle at Best Buy had shown me how. Emailed it to an old account I'd forgotten I had. Even saved it on a USB drive that I hid inside Harold's tackle box in the garage. If something happened to me, someone would find it. Then I started digging. Michael had been sloppy, probably because he thought I was too far gone to notice. In Harold's filing cabinet, I found bank statements I didn't recognize. Accounts that had been opened in my name, but that I'd never authorized. Small amounts transferred out, 50 here, 100 there, testing the waters. You always were impatient, I muttered, photographing each statement with my phone. Couldn't wait for me to die naturally. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Gladys from next door, holding a casserole dish. Dorothy, I saw Michael's car earlier. Everything okay? I opened the door, forcing a smile. Fine, Gladys, just fine. You sure? You look. She studied my face with the intensity of a woman who'd spent 40 years as a nurse. You look like you've been crying. Just missing Harold. It wasn't a lie. She nodded sympathetically. I brought lasagna. That boy of yours never stays long enough for a proper meal. No, he just stayed long enough to plot my disposal. Thank you. I took the dish, its warmth comforting against my cold hands. Gladys, can I ask you something? Have you seen anyone unusual around my house lately, when I'm not home? Her eyes sharpened. Now that you mention it, I did see Michael here last week. Middle of the day. You were at your doctor's appointment. I know because you asked me to water your roses. Last week, when my reading glasses ended up in the refrigerator. Did he have a key? Must have, went right in. She leaned closer. Dorothy, is everything really okay? I wanted to tell her, wanted to collapse into her capable arms and sob out the whole story. But Michael's words echoed. Confused old lady, paranoid accusations. I'm just being careful, I said instead. You know, living alone. She didn't look convinced but didn't push. You need anything, you call, day or night. After she left, I returned to my investigation with renewed energy. If Michael had been in my house without permission, what else had he done? I found more evidence in my email, messages I didn't remember sending. One to my doctor expressing concerns about my memory. Another to my financial advisor asking about liquidating assets for medical care. All sent from my account, but written in Michael's formal business style, not my voice. Laying the groundwork, I said to Harold's photo on the desk, making everyone think I'm losing it. But the worst discovery came when I checked the county assessor's website. Kyle had helped me set up online access years ago when I was teaching and needed to look up property information for a school project. There it was, my house, our house, no longer listed under my name alone. The deed now showed Michael James Henderson and Victoria Louise Henderson as co-owners. The transfer date was 3 days ago, the day I'd signed those papers. I printed everything, my old printer wheezing with the effort. The stack of evidence grew, bank statements, emails, property records, but would it be enough? That's when I remembered Tommy Peterson. Little Tommy Peterson, who'd struggled with reading until I'd spent lunch hours tutoring him. Who'd cried when he finally read his first complete book. Who'd sent me a card every Christmas for 30 years. Who was now Thomas Peterson, Esquire, working at his father's law firm. I called his office, my hands steady now. Purpose had burned away the shaking. Peterson Law, how may I direct your call? This is Dorothy Henderson. I'd like to speak with Thomas Peterson. I'm sorry, Mr. Peterson is in court. Can I tack? A message. Tell him Mrs. H needs help. He'll understand. Within an hour, Tommy called back. Mrs. H, what's wrong? I'd practiced what to say, but the words still came out in a rush. Tommy, I think my son is trying to steal my house. I have evidence, video evidence. Can you help me? I'll be right over. He arrived within 20 minutes, still in his court suit, but with the same earnest face I remembered from 6th grade. I showed him everything, the video, the forged documents, the suspicious bank accounts. His expression grew darker with each revelation. This is, Mrs. H, this is serious. This isn't just family drama. This is elder abuse, wire fraud, forgery. He ran his hand through hair that was starting to gray. The FBI handles cases like this. The FBI. The letters sounded impossibly official. Financial crimes against the elderly are federal offenses, and from what I'm seeing here, he gestured at my evidence folders, your son didn't just cross a line, he obliterated it. But he's my son. Even now, even after everything, the words hurt. I know, Tommy's voice was gentle, but he's also a criminal, and he's counting on you loving him too much to stop him. He was right. Michael was banking on Mother's love being stronger than self-preservation, and for most mothers, it would be. But most mothers hadn't watched their sons laugh about putting them in a bottom-tier nursing home to die. What do I do? First, we protect you. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to freeze the property transfer. Then we contact the Elder Justice Unit at the FBI. They have a task force specifically for cases like this. Will he go to jail? The question came out small, weak. Tommy looked at me with the same serious expression he'd had when he'd finally mastered long division. If what's on that video is accurate, yes, Mrs. H, he'll go to jail. I thought about Michael as a baby, sweet-smelling and perfect in my arms. Michael learning to ride a bike, his face bright with triumph. Michael at his wedding, handsome in his tuxedo, dancing with me to sunrise, sunset. Then I thought about him sitting in my living room, planning to break my hip to speed up stealing my home. Good, I said and meant it. Tommy made calls, set appointments, started the legal machinery that would either save me or destroy what was left of my family. As he worked, I sat in Harold's chair and felt something I hadn't felt since finding that deed transfer. Hope. Mrs. H, Tommy said, hanging up his phone. The FBI wants to meet with you tomorrow. Agent Sarah Chen from the Elder Justice Unit. She says cases like this are more common than you'd think. Other mothers. I couldn't imagine other women going through this. And fathers, grandparents, anyone vulnerable with assets. His face was grim. Your son isn't unique, Mrs. H. He's just another predator who thought he found easy prey. But I wasn't prey, not anymore. As Tommy prepared to leave, promising to pick me up for the FBI meeting, I asked him one more thing. Should I warn Michael, give him a chance to make this right? Tommy looked at me for a long moment. Did he warn you before he started stealing from you? Did he give you a chance when he was moving your things to make you think you were going senile? No. Then you have your answer. He squeezed my shoulder. Get some rest, Mrs. H. Tomorrow we start fighting back. After he left, I sat in my kitchen in my house, and felt the weight of what was coming. Federal agents, investigations, my son in handcuffs. But also justice, safety, the right to live my remaining years in peace in the home Harold and I had built with love and sacrifice and dreams. The phone rang. Michael's name on the caller ID. Hi, honey, I answered, my voice perfectly normal. How are you? Just checking on you, Mom. You sound good. I feel good. Actually, I was thinking about what you said, about getting help. Really? He couldn't hide his eagerness. That's great, Mom. Yes, I've already made some calls. I think you'll be surprised by what happens next. What kind of calls? But I was already hanging up, a skill I'd learned from him. Let him wonder. Let him worry. Tomorrow, the FBI would hear my story. Tomorrow, the trap I'd set would spring shut. Tonight, I was just a mother, sitting in her kitchen, mourning the son I'd thought I'd raised. The FBI agent was younger than Michael, but her eyes were kind as she reviewed my evidence folders. Agent Sarah Chen had the same patient intensity I'd seen in my best students, the ones who wouldn't rest until they understood everything. Mrs. Henderson, what you've documented here is exceptional, she said, pausing the video for the 5th time to take notes. Most victims don't have nearly this much proof. Victims? The word sat heavy in Tommy Peterson's conference room where we'd gathered. I'd never thought of myself as a victim before. I was a teacher, I said simply. Documentation was RT of the job. Well, your teaching habits might just send your son to federal prison. She said it matter-of-factly, but her eyes watched for my reaction. How long? The question came out steadier than I felt. Wire fraud, mail fraud, elder abuse, forgery. With the amounts involved and the interstate banking elements, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. 20 years. Michael would be 73 when he got out, older than I was when Harold got sick. Mrs. Henderson, Agent Chen leaned forward, I need to ask you something directly. Are you prepared to testify against your son? I thought about all the mothers who would say no. Who would protect their children no matter what those children had done? Who would go quietly to whatever nursing home their kids chose rather than see them in handcuffs? He was prepared to break my hip to speed up the process, I said. So yes, I'm prepared. She nodded, unsurprised. In my experience, family members who do this have usually crossed other lines too. We'll be looking into his business dealings, his other relationships. This might not be his first time. You think he's done this before? Let's just say that people who can plan to hurt their own mothers rarely develop that capacity overnight. She pulled out a device that looked like a phone. We'd like you to wear this during your next interaction with him. It transmits directly to our van. You want me to wear a wire? It sounded like something from the crime shows Harold used to watch. Only if you're comfortable. We have enough to arrest him now, but a current confession would strengthen the case. He's coming for dinner Sunday, I heard myself say. He called this morning, said he wants to check on me, make sure I'm okay. Agent Chen smiled grimly. Perfect, we'll be ready. The rest of the week passed in a blur of preparations. The FBI installed additional cameras, professional ones this time, not my lamp store special. They coached me on what to say, what to ask, how to get Michael talking without raising suspicion. Just be yourself, Agent Chen advised. Let him think he's winning. Saturday night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, touching things, the dining table where we'd had thousands of meals, the growth chart on the doorframe, the squeaky step Michael always tried to avoid when sneaking in past curfew. How do you prepare to destroy your own child, even when that child was prepared to destroy you? Sunday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood. I cooked pot roast, Michael's favorite, and tried not to think about how it might be the last meal I'd ever make for him. Agent Chen arrived at 3, her team setting up in a van down the street. She helped me with the wire, taping it carefully under my blouse. Remember, we're listening to everything. If you feel unsafe at any moment, just say you need to water the roses. We'll be inside in seconds. He won't hurt me, I said. Not physically, that was supposed to come later. People can be unpredictable when they sense their plans falling apart. She squeezed my shoulder. You're very brave, Mrs. Henderson. No, I corrected. I'm very angry. Michael arrived at 5 sharp, carrying flowers. Carnations from the grocery store, already wilting. He used to pick wildflowers from the backyard, presenting them in grubby fists with pure love. Mom, you look good. He kissed my cheek, and I managed not to flinch. Something smells amazing. Pot roast, your favorite. You remembered. His smile seemed almost genuine. We sat at the dining table, the same one where he'd signed his college applications, where he'd announced his engagement, where he'd plotted my disposal. I served the food and watched him eat, wondering when my baby boy had become a stranger. So, Mom, he said between bites, have you thought more about what we discussed, about getting help? I have. I set down my fork carefully. Actually, I've been wondering about those papers I signed. His chewing slowed. What about them? Well, I found some notes I'd made. Something about a deed transfer. Mom, we've been over this. There was no deed transfer. His voice took on that patient, patronizing tone. You're getting confused again. Am I? I pulled out a copy of the county record, slid it across the table. Because this says otherwise. His face went through several expressions. Surprise, calculation, then forced calm. Where did you get this? Does it matter? The question is, why does it say you own my house? Mom, this is exactly why we need to get you help. You're getting paranoid, seeing conspiracies. Stop! The teacher voice came out, the one that could quiet a classroom instantly. Just stop. I know what you did, Michael, all of it. He set down his fork. I don't know what you think you know. I know you've been moving my things to make me think I'm senile. I know you've been accessing my accounts. I know you and Victoria are planning to put me in Sunset Man. Or in Sell My House. The color drained from his face. Who told you? How did? I heard you, both of you, right here in my living room, laughing about how easy a target I was. For a moment, my son looked like a cornered animal. Then his expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. So what? He said. What are you going to do about it? No one will believe you. I've got documentation of your confusion, your paranoia. One phone call to Dr. Morrison and you'll be in a facility by Tuesday. Is that what you think? I kept my voice steady, remembering Agent Chen's coaching. That you can just take everything Harold and I worked for. Dad's dead, Mom, and you're not capable anymore. Someone has to make the hard decisions. Hard decisions. Is that what you call stealing from your mother? He leaned back, crossing his arms. It's not stealing if it's going to be mine anyway. Why should I wait for you to die when I need the money now? There it was, the confession Agent Chen wanted, but I pushed further. And if I don't cooperate? Then we go with Plan B. His smile was cold. Accidents happen to elderly people all the time, especially confused elderly people who might forget they already took their medication, or who might fall down the stairs. My blood chilled, but I kept my face neutral. You'd hurt me. I'd help you transition to the next stage of life. He leaned forward. Face it, Mom. You're old, you're alone, and you're worth more to everyone as a memory than as a burden. Each word was a knife, but also evidence. Somewhere down the street, FBI agents were recording every terrible syllable. I'm your mother, I whispered. I gave you life. And I'm grateful, but that doesn't mean I have to let you drag me down with your stubbornness. He stood up. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign the power of attorney papers. You're going to cooperate with the move to Sunset Manor. And you're going to do it with a smile or things will get unpleasant. And if I refuse? Then I'll have you declared incompetent. I've already got the paperwork started. Dr. Morrison is ready to sign. The only question is whether you go quietly or make this hard on yourself. I stood too, my knees surprisingly steady. I think there's a third option. What's that? The one where you go to prison. He laughed, actually laughed. For what? Trying to help my confused mother. For wire fraud, mail fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit assault. I moved toward the door. For being a son who would destroy his mother for money. You're talking nonsense. But I was already opening the front door. Agent Chen stood there, badge visible, with 4 other agents behind her. Michael Henderson, she said, you're under arrest for federal elder fraud and conspiracy charges. The look on his face, shock, rage, then fear would stay with me forever. As they cuffed him, he looked at me with such hatred that I stepped back. You set me up, he snarled. Your own son. No, I said quietly. You set yourself up. I just refuse to be your victim. As they led him away, he shouted over his shoulder. You'll regret this. You'll die alone. No one will visit you. No one will care. Maybe he was right. Maybe I would die alone. but I'd die in my own home, with my dignity intact and Harold's memory honored. Agent Chen stayed behind as the others drove Michael away. "You did great, Mrs. Henderson. That was one of the clearest confessions I've ever recorded." "What happens now?" "Now we arrest Victoria, search their house, build the full case." She paused. "Are you okay?" Was I? I just sent my son to prison. The child I'd carried for 9 months, whose fever I'd sat up with, whose dreams I'd encouraged. "No," I admitted, "but I will be." Michael's face went white when I said, "I know everything." But Victoria just laughed until she saw the FBI agents streaming through my front door, weapons drawn, badges gleaming in the porch light. "On the ground, now!" Agent Chen commanded, and my daughter-in-law's designer heels skittered across my hardwood floor as she dropped, her laughter turning to shrieks. "This is insane. Dorothy, tell them this is a mistake." Victoria's perfectly styled hair fell across her face as they cuffed her. But I had nothing to say. The FBI had executed the search warrant at their house while Michael was being arrested here. They'd found everything: forged documents, my stolen items, detailed plans for my disposal. "Mrs. Henderson, are you all right?" Agent Chen asked as they led Victoria out. Through my front window, I could see neighbors gathering. Gladys stood on her porch, hand over her mouth. The Johnsons from across the street were recording with their phones. By tomorrow, everyone would know. "Michael Henderson," Victoria screamed as they put her in the car. "This is your mother's fault, your crazy mother." But Michael wasn't listening. He sat in the back of another FBI vehicle. Head down, shoulders shaking. Crying or calculating, I couldn't tell anymore. The next hours blurred together. FBI agents cataloging evidence. Tommy Peterson arriving to handle legal matters. Phone calls from reporters who'd somehow already heard. I moved through it all like a ghost, making coffee, answering questions, signing papers. "Dorothy," Gladys appeared at my back door sometime after midnight, when the last FBI van had pulled away. "Honey, I saw everything. Are you okay?" "My son tried to steal my house," I said, the words feeling unreal. "He was going to put me in a home. He was going to." "I know." She pulled me into a hug, and I finally broke. Sobbed into her shoulder like a child while she rubbed my back. "I know, honey, but you're safe now. You're safe." The next morning, my phone rang nonstop. Sarah calling from California, hysterical. "Mom, what happened? The FBI called me about Michael. This has to be a mistake." "It's not a mistake." I explained everything, my voice hollow from crying. But Michael would never. He's the responsible one." "Watch the news," I told her. "They have the video." Tom called from Florida an hour later. "Jesus, Mom, I just saw the footage on CNN. Michael actually said those things." "He said worse things they're not showing." "Do you need me to come? I can catch a flight." "No, I was too tired for more family drama. I'm handling it." "But you're all alone." "I've been alone since your father died. This doesn't change that." The media circus began in earnest. Local woman, 78, catches son in elaborate fraud scheme. FBI arrests couple for elder abuse plot. Hidden camera reveals shocking betrayal. I stopped answering the door after the third reporter. Let them stand on my lawn. I had nothing to say that the video hadn't already shown. Tommy Peterson became my shield, handling the legal aftermath. The house was returned to my name alone. The fraudulent bank accounts were frozen. Michael's and Victoria's assets were seized to pay restitution. "They found 3 other victims," Tommy told me a week later. "Elderly clients Victoria had found through her real estate work. Your video broke the whole thing open." 3 others. 3 other mothers or fathers who trusted the wrong people. Will they be okay? Thanks to you, yes. Most of their assets can be recovered. thanks to me, as if I'd done something heroic instead of just trying to save myself. The preliminary hearing came 6 weeks later. I wore my best dress, the one Harold had loved, and sat in the witness stand facing my son. Michael had lost weight. His expensive suit hung loose, and his hair needed cutting. When our eyes met, I searched for some sign of the boy I'd raised, some hint of remorse or recognition. Instead, he mouthed 2 words, "I'm sorry." But his lawyer was already standing, ready to paint me as a confused old woman who'd misunderstood her son's good intentions, ready to use my age against me, just as Michael had planned. "Mrs. Henderson," the lawyer began, "isn't it true that you've been experiencing memory issues?" "No," I said clearly. "It's true that my son moved my belongings to make me think I was experiencing memory issues. But you admit to finding items in strange places." "I admit to finding items where my son placed them to gaslight me." For 2 hours, he tried to twist my words, confuse me, make the jury doubt. But I'd spent 35 years dealing with children who thought they were clever. I answered each question calmly, precisely, letting the facts speak. When the prosecutor played the video, Michael and Victoria planning my future in my own living room, several jurors gasped. One woman my age wiped away tears. "No further questions," Michael's lawyer said, defeated. As I stepped down from the stand, I passed close to Michael's table. He reached out, trying to grab my hand. "Mom, please." But the bailiff was already moving, and I was already walking away. There was nothing left to say. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge, a woman with silver hair and kind eyes, sentenced Michael to 18 years. Victoria got 12. "Mr. Henderson," the judge said, "you didn't just betray your mother. You betrayed the fundamental trust between parent and child. You turned love into a weapon and home into a hunting ground. This court hopes your time in prison will help you understand the magnitude of what you've lost." Michael sobbed as they led him away. Great, gulping sobs like when he was 3 and had broken his favorite toy. But I couldn't comfort him now. He'd broken something that couldn't be fixed with glue and kisses. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Mrs. Henderson, how does it feel to see justice served?" "It doesn't feel like justice," I said, surprising myself with honesty. "It feels like survival." "Do you have any message for other seniors who might be in similar situations?" I thought about all the mothers in Fat. Hers too afraid or too loving to speak up. All the ones who would suffer in silence rather than send their children to prison. "Trust your instincts," I said. "If something feels wrong, it probably is. And remember, loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you." Tommy drove me home through streets I'd known for 50 years. The house looked the same from the outside, but everything had changed. "You did the right thing," he said as we pulled into my driveway. "Did I?" I looked at my front door, remembering all the times Michael had walked through it. First days of school, prom nights, college breaks. "I sent my son to prison." "No," Tommy corrected gently. "Your son sent himself to prison. You just refused to go with him." That night, I sat in Harold's chair, my chair now, and tried to make sense of it all. The house was quiet, but it was a different quiet than before. Not the silence of abandonment or fear, but the peace of safety. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, then saw the preview. "Mrs. H, this is Kyle from Best Buy." I opened it fully, saw the news. "You're the strongest person I know. Mom says to tell you she's proud of you. We all are." Then another, from a former student. "You taught us to stand up to bullies. Glad you remembered your own lessons." And another, and another. Students I'd taught 20, 30 years ago, reaching out to the teacher who'd helped them read, write, and apparently fight back. I wasn't alone after all. I had a different kind of family, one built on respect rather than blood, on choice rather than obligation. Tomorrow, I'd start the long process of rebuilding, of learning to live without the son I'd thought I had, of grieving the family that had never really existed. But tonight, I was just a woman in her own home, safe and free, surrounded by the ghost of love and the reality of survival. The house felt different now, not smaller but somehow more mine than it had ever been. 6 months had passed since the trial, and I'd repainted every room. Not because they needed it, but because I needed to reclaim each space from the memory of betrayal. Sarah arrived first, flying in from California with 2 suitcases and a face full of guilt. "Mom, I'm so sorry," she said for the 100th time, standing in my kitchen like a stranger. "I should have known, should have visited more, should have." "Should have is a heavy burden," I interrupted, pouring her coffee in the same mug I'd used for Michael. "Put it down." "How can you be so calm, after everything?" "I'm 78 years old, sweetheart. I don't have time for anything but calm." She stayed for 2 weeks, helping me sort through things. We found Michael's childhood drawings in a box in the attic. Crayon stick figures labeled me and Mommy, hearts floating between us like balloons. "What do you want to do with these?" Sarah asked, her voice careful. I looked at those innocent drawings, made by hands that would one day sign papers to steal my home. "Keep them. They're evidence that he was loved. Whatever he became, he started out loved." Tom came next, driving up from Florida with his newest wife. 4th, not 3rd as Michael had said. She was nice enough, quiet, watching our family dynamics like a nature documentary. "I've been thinking," Tom said over dinner, "maybe one of us should move closer, to help out." "I don't need help." "Mom, you're almost 80. "And I just took down a federal fraud ring," I reminded him. "I think I can manage grocery shopping." He laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from any of my children in years. "Fair point." They helped me set up new security systems, cameras that weren't hidden, locks that couldn't be picked, a medical alert button I'd probably never use, but that made them feel better. "We failed you," Sarah said the night before she left. "Michael was always the responsible one, the one who stayed close. We just assumed." "You assumed a son would take care of his mother. That's not failure, that's faith." I took her hand. "He failed, not you." After they left, the house settled into new rhythms. Gladys came for coffee every Tuesday. Former students stopped by with grandchildren to introduce. The mailman, who'd testified about suspicious packages, always asked how I was doing. I started teaching again, not in a classroom but at the senior center. Financial literacy for seniors, focusing on recognizing scams, protecting assets, trusting your instincts. "The person most likely to steal from you," I told a room full of gray heads, "is the person you'd never suspect. Your brain will try to explain it away. Don't let it." One woman raised her hand. "But how do you know? How do you really know?" I thought about Michael's sweaty palms, Victoria's cold calculations, the way my reading glasses had migrated to the refrigerator. "You know because something feels wrong. Maybe you can't name it, but you feel it. That feeling, that's your lifetime of experience trying to protect you. Listen to it." Tommy Peterson helped me set up an ironclad trust for the house. No one could touch it while I lived, and after I died, it would become a scholarship fund for local students. "Not going to your kids?" he asked carefully. "My kids will get what Harold left them. The house goes to children who need help becoming something better than what they started as." "That's generous, Mrs. H." "No," I corrected. "That's hope." The letters from prison started after 8 months. Michael's handwriting, once so neat from all those homework sessions at my kitchen table, now looked shaky. "Mom, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught, sorry I became someone who could hurt you." Prison gives you time to think, and all I think about is how I had everything and threw it away for money that was never really mine. I read each letter once, then filed them away. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Some wounds needed to stay closed to heal. Victoria never wrote. I heard through Tommy that she'd divorced Michael, was trying to get early release by testifying about other schemes. Even in prison, she was working the angles. A year after the arrest, I stood in my garden, planting Harold's favorite roses. The sun was warm on my back, the soil rich between my fingers. I was thinking about nothing in particular when I heard a car pull up. Mrs. Henderson. I turned to find a young woman, maybe 30, holding a baby. Yes. I'm Jennifer Morrison, one of the other victims, the ones they found after your case broke. She shifted the baby nervously. I wanted to thank you. They were going to take my grandmother's house. She raised me after my parents died, if you hadn't been brave enough to speak up. I wasn't brave, I said, pulling off my gardening gloves. I was just angry enough to act on it. Same thing, maybe, she smiled sadly. My grandmother passed last month, but she died in her own bed in her own house because of you. I wanted you to know that mattered. After she left, I sat on my porch, thinking about ripples. How one action, buying a hidden camera, had spread out in ways I'd never imagined. 3 other families saved. Who knew how many more warned by the news coverage? Michael would serve at least 15 years before parole. He'd be 68 when he got out, still younger than I was now. Maybe prison would teach him what I couldn't. Maybe not. That wasn't my burden to carry anymore. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of peach and gold. Somewhere, Harold was watching. I could feel it in the way the evening breeze touched my face, gentle as a kiss. I did it, I whispered to the empty chair beside me. I saved our home. But more than that, I'd saved myself. From silence, from victimhood, from the expectation that mothers should sacrifice everything, even their dignity, for their children's comfort. My phone buzzed. Sarah sending pictures from California. Tom sharing a joke. Former students checking in. My different kind of family, built on choice rather than chance. I'd lost a son but found my strength. Lost trust but found truth. Lost the family I'd thought I had, but discovered the one I'd actually built through years of teaching, neighboring, living with integrity. The house creaked gently, settling for the night. My house, my home, my life reclaimed and renewed. Tomorrow, I'd wake up in my own bed, make coffee in my own kitchen, tend my own garden. Simple pleasures that had almost been stolen, now treasured beyond measure. I was Dorothy Me Henderson, mother, teacher, survivor. And I was home. You know, after all I gave them, after all those years, I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes the people we love most are capable of hurting us the deepest. But I also learned that we're never too old to fight back, never too weak to stand up for ourselves, and never too alone when we reach out for help. If my story resonates with you, if you felt that uncomfortable feeling in your gut when someone you trust asks you to sign something you don't understand, please listen to that feeling. It's not paranoia. It's not confusion. It's wisdom trying to protect you. To every mother, father, grandparent watching this, your home is more than property. Your savings are more than numbers. They represent your life's work, your security, your dignity. Don't let anyone, not even your own children, make you feel guilty for protecting what's yours. If you're experiencing something similar, please know you're not alone. The National Elder Fraud Hotline is there for you. Local elder services can help. Lawyers who specialize in elder law will listen. And sometimes, like in my case, the FBI will step in to protect you. If this story touched your heart or opened your eyes, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment. With your own story, This community is built on shared experiences and mutual support. Remember, loving your children doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad parent. And choosing your own safety and dignity is not selfish. It's necessary. Stay strong, trust yourself, and never forget. You deserve to live your remaining years in peace, security, and dignity. You've earned it.